Welcome to Bible Walkthrough. I'm Adam Ayers.
And I'm Wes Warner.
And we're addressing today, is temptation too much for you? Did you really have to do it? 1 Corinthians 10:13 on Bible Walkthrough.
So we're looking at 1 Corinthians 10, verse 13. It says, "No trial has overtaken you that's not faced by others. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tried beyond what you're able to bear. But with the trial will also provide a way out so that you may be able to endure it." And when I read that, it sounds pretty straightforward to me. I don't personally have a competing translation that bothers me. So I take it pretty simply as encouragement that no matter what you're going through, you're going to be able to get through it. God's going to have a way for you to get through it. It's going to be okay. But I'm sure Adam has a much more broad context in this letter.
I can make the most clear things muddy. Thank you, Wes. I think. This is a passage that's thrown around a lot and often quoted as an encouragement, and rightly. The meaning of the passage is fairly clear in that he is saying there's nothing, a trouble or a trial or a temptation. It's all the same word. The same word means trial as means temptation, and so that kind of gives us a fuzzy interpretation sometimes. But there's no sort of difficulty or temptation that's taken you that people don't face everywhere. And look, you can get it through. That's kind of the essential understanding of just that verse. But I believe that the viewer sent this to us, trying to figure out how this fits in the larger discourse. Does this mean, and in pop usage, does this mean that when you want something, it's never going to be too much for you? Or does it mean that a trouble in your life is never too much for you to bear? And obviously, there are things like martyrdom where the trouble that you're facing does kill you, and you don't make it through. I think the larger context here of Paul's argument, because Paul is talking a lot about eating food that's been offered to idols, and is that okay or is that not okay? And he's talking earlier about keeping oneself sexually pure, which is a big trial for a lot of people that they have a hard time resisting. And a lot of people have come to places where they've, like Peter, really intended that they were going to follow through and not fail. And then they fail and they face this deep disappointment. And this verse tends to bring a lot of condemnation to them, like, I really could have made it through that. And that might be possible. But I don't think that's what Paul is trying to talk about. Paul is talking about this competition between loyalty to an idol and eating things offered to an idol and keeping oneself for the Lord. Paul here uses very threatening language in the beginning part of this chapter, because he's talking about the Jews who had all come out of Egypt together, falling away from God at Sinai and becoming idolaters and basically going anarchist, and that though they had been the people of God, when they party, God destroys them. It's a very threatening thing. When they go and party and eat and drink the food that's offered to their idol, this golden calf, they get destroyed by God. And he says, don't murmur, as some of them murmured and were destroyed of the destroyer. Don't tempt Christ, he says. And he uses the same term. Don't try Christ. Don't tempt Christ. Some of them tempted Christ and were destroyed by serpents because of their complaining. Don't murmur and be destroyed as they were. And he says in verse 11, now all of these things happened unto them as examples, and they are written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the world are come. That God did these things to warn us that if you act this way, you're going to get killed. Mm-hmm. And that's a very scary thing. Mm-hmm. So the Corinthian people are reading this letter from Paul saying, if you fall out of line, there's a knife at your throat. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the purpose is to try to keep them from going wanton in the Corinthian community. They were doing all kinds of crazy things. The sexual immorality among them was rampant. He's rebuked them about how they're living on many levels in the book up to this point. And now he's giving them these stern warnings that if you don't toe the line, you are going to be judged fiercely. Don't tempt Jesus because you're going to get killed. That's a very scary thing for them to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2 Corinthians, he lauds them for fearing when he gives them these kinds of warnings and for complying and really getting with it and toeing the line. So that it's obviously part of his intention to get them to be circumspect, to watch their behavior, and to begin to live lives of righteous conduct. But it appears that Paul wants to mitigate that. He wants to soften that blow and soften that fear a little bit by saying, hey, don't worry, you can make it out. So he says, there's no temptation taken you, or no trial taken you. But hey, people can make it, you can make it through. Particularly, you can stand against that desire or that feeling that you really need to go play at the idol's temple. It says it's not too much for you. You can do it. It's kind of a coach saying, you can do it. Come on, give me 10 more. We know this because the very next verse says, because of this, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry. And he says, I speak as to wise man, you judge what I say, that we take the communion cup, that's to Christ, don't take the cup of idols, don't be a partaker of the devil's sacrifices. He's pretty clear. He's talking about idolatry. He's talking about the temptation to go be an idolater or partake in idolatrous feasts. So I wouldn't apply this out to every kind of temptation.
Not every kind of temptation.
Not every kind of temptation. He's talking really about going apostate and about doing those things which radically compromise your loyalty to Jesus. I think we could apply it to general temptation as a general principle, but I wouldn't put this in every instance.
There could be exceptions.
There could be, Peter, you are going to fall. There could be something like martyrdom that you can't escape, and that trial will be too much for you, and it will kill you.
You can still keep your faith.
Yes. But there's no way out there. The way out is death.
But you still get to live with Jesus.
Yes, that's true.
There's
so
a
he
way
says
out
that
there.
you make way through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is not an escape hatch where you pop out of it, you make your way through it.
Yeah.
But he's very, very clear that this is about fleeing idolatry. That's the first meaning.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
I would say that's the primary one. But yes, you're right. So you do get that way out, that you get to maintain faith.
Absolutely.
But,
you can always maintain faith.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just not an escape
grace.
hatch.
Yeah.
And it's not something, people get resentful at God and they say, well, that was too much for me to bear. Well, you're still standing. It was enough that you could bear.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very cautionary tone.
Yeah, there's grace for you in that.
Mm-hmm. This is both hope and a little bit of softening of the judgmental language ahead of time, and also still look for the way to flee idolatry.
Yeah, because God, I mean, to say that there's no way to flee idolatry, that's a small view of God. I mean, God is way bigger than anything than we can face. I sound just like everything else I've heard on this, but that's what I believe. I mean, He's so much bigger than anything that the devil can pull out, that to think that He doesn't have grace to help you get through that tough situation is a small view of God, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have a view of God that's too big.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And in those troubles that you have that are stressing on you, there's a way to make it through. You can have hope. And when you're tempted to be apostate and to compromise your commitment by profligacy, you don't have to. The devil won't make you do it. We hope this helps you in some of the trials that you face, some of the difficulties and some of the temptations. It's not clear exactly which one it is, but we hope it helps you. Read it, memorize it, hold to it. It's a life ring on a stormy sea. And we'll see you next text and next time on Bible Walkthrough.